So good afternoon, everyone. I have that it's now
Good afternoon.
I have that it's now 12:30 p.m. and I'm going to now call the Public Defender Service Corporation Board of Trustees, our regular meeting for December 2022, now called to order. At this time, I'm going to ask if the secretary could please call the roll.
Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito.
I am present and I am logged on from my residence at Nimitz Hill.
Presiding Judge Alberto C. Lamarena III.
He is excused.
Trustee Cynthia V. Acubi.
I am present and I'm here in my Hagåtña office. Thank you.
Trustee Donna Muña Kanata.
I am present and I'm here in Tamuning, Guam.
Guam Bar President Matthew Terlahi.
And she is also excused. So I've ascertained that we have 3 of the 5 members present. We do have a quorum and we're able to conduct the regular business of the Board of Trustees. Before we start the agenda for this afternoon, I would like to just ask everyone if we could just take a moment of silence as we recognize the untimely passing of Dr. Margaret Hattori Uchima, who unfortunately just had a very tragic accident. And Dr. Hattori Uchima is the sister of our executive director for the Public Defender Service Corporation, attorney Steve Hattori. And so with that, if we could just have a few moments of silence as we recognize this very untimely event, especially during this time of the holidays, and we pray for Steve and his family and while they cope with this very, very unfortunate event. So Steve, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the employees of the Public Defender Service Corporation, our hearts go out to you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. And we will continue to monitor the public events where we hope that we can in person express our deep sympathy for you and your family.
Thank you, Chief Justice. I'll communicate that to the family, and I appreciate the board taking time out for a moment of silence. I mean, my sister Margaret, she was a dean of nursing, but she did way more than that. She was instrumental in getting our office actively involved in the Homeless Coalition, which has benefited many of our clients, through our social worker, Rose Rages as well, who represents us there. And she also is in charge of GWEP, that Guam Workforce Enhancement Program. And I know that Kat Squenza probably met with her when we did some elder justice conference seminars with GWEP on Zoom. And so they actually provided us with a bunch of Facebook portals and Zoom licenses that are HIPAA compliant so that we can, eventually meet our clients during the pandemic. So thank you for the tribute. I really appreciate it.
Yes, Steve, your sister was known by just about every segment of the community, and your loss and loss of family is just a huge loss for the entire Guam community, not just UOG and the areas that she worked on and touched, but just the entire Guam community. And I'm certain your family will see just the outpouring of support and sympathy for you and the family of Margaret. So with that, members of the Board of Trustees, we are going to move on in reference to our agenda. And the first matter has to do with the approval of the minutes of November 25th, 2022. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
I'll move, Your Honor.
All right, it's been moved by Trustee Ekubi. Is there a second to that motion? And Donna, do you want to second that that motion to adopt the minutes? Okay, she is driving, so we want to make sure that she is in a safe place. So I'm going to go ahead and second the motion to adopt the minutes. And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes are duly, the motion's approved and the minutes are duly adopted. The next item on our agenda has to do with the report of the Public Defender Service Corporation's Executive Director. And at this time, I will recognize Attorney Steve Hattori for the record. Steve, please.
Okay, thank you. I guess there's a financial status update. Did you want to hear that or?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me go back on my agenda. I had already advanced. So, yes, I am going to recognize Mr. Mike Moreno. They were on my Zoom screen. They seem to have disappeared. There they are.
Oh.
Okay. All right, Mike, I apologize for that, my oversight. Please proceed and give us your financial status update.
Thank you, Your Honor, and good afternoon to all the board members, and happy holidays. For the Public Defender Service Corporation, we have received our second December allotment release on December 22nd, and PDSC is at 93%, and APD is operating at 94%. We do have a grant from the JAG Access to Council. The balance as of today is $10,640. And the invoice for any reimbursements for the first quarter of fiscal year 2023 will be submitted in January 2023. For the Advocacy Center, we do have funding available from the ICJR grant as of November 30th. The balance is at $109,000 and is presently being used for all reimbursements for tax. Going on to the EJC for fiscal year 2023, although we have not received the signed MOU, we were advised by DSC to go ahead and submit the October and November invoices, which we did do. We have contacted DSC regarding the status of the September, October, and November invoices, and their response is as follows. Number one, for the September 22 reimbursement, the invoice was sent to DOA on November 8th. However, it has not been queued into the AS400 system as of today, according to DSC. And DSC is following up with the Department of Administration. Number two, the October and November invoices, which have been submitted and cleared by DSC, we are still pending the registration of the MOU by DOA in order to move forward to reimburse PDSC. Number three, we are still waiting for a copy of the MOU signed by all parties concerned. We will continue to communicate on a regular basis with DSC for any updates. And that, Your Honor, is the status of the financial situation of PDSC, APD, and all concerned.
All right, Mike, in terms of the regular status communication, I'd like for you to do that in writing on a monthly basis in reference to the outstanding receivables in reference to, I assume that's the Elder Justice Center that has those outstanding receivables.
Yes.
And so a phone call is not going to do it, although if you want to supplement, I'd like to have a record where it's in writing, communicated, and at the very minimum on a monthly basis, followed up by any phone call But we want to make sure that we stay on top of this, so if fingers are only pointed in one direction, should
Understood.
we step up the requests to for payment.
For this report, we did send the emails, and then the reply that we received are in email format.
Yes, that's completely satisfactory. Any questions or comments by any of our board members for Mr. Moreno? You know, I'd like for that, if you could just have your boardroom, Kathy, if you could have the video turned on rather than just the PD icon. We're taping this and live streaming it, so I'd like for all of us to be present in our virtual format. So the item on the agenda is the report of our APD managing attorney. That's Attorney Anna Maria Gale. And so, Annie, do you have any report that you would like to I'm sorry. You know, I'm just
No
going
worries, Your Honor.
order here. Now we'll go to our Executive Director, Attorney Steve Vittori. Steve.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Really, the only issue that we wanted to bring up was our conflict of interest procedures. The board had approved one back in 2014. And so we basically looked at it, and it seems really thorough. We just decided to implement a procedure where a senior attorney in each courtroom has to basically co-sign or sign a memo to the file approving the, joining in the motion, right? And then we also have on page 12, or sorry, third, it says, so the checklist is on page 15. I'll circulate a memo to all our attorneys. And some are really automatic withdrawals without permission, where we currently represent a co-defendant, or we currently represent a victim, although in a prejudgment case. So we'll clarify that. So like if we had represented a family violence victim before, and now we're appointed to represent them, the victim in a DUI, clearly there really isn't a problem with us doing that. So we'll tighten that up a little bit more. And then this, where we currently represent a witness, depending on what our representation is, it might not even, if it's not going to come in during the trial. So like there's theoretical conflicts and there's like trial conflicts. So a lot of conflicts are so abstract that the chance of them actually occurring in a trial are pretty much remote or really nil, right? If you have like a prior conviction that you cannot use to impeach a witness on, then we don't really think that's a conflict. Unless it's like maybe an assault and self-defense is being raised. But anyways, and so we have this other sheet that we attached, page 16, where it's a list of scenarios where they do not present per se conflicts, and we'll also circulate that as well, and it'll help guide the attorneys. I mean, this should pretty much address all the different types of conflicts we deal with. Like when a client and attorney have a conflict, it'll go to another member within the firm. So we don't, if there's a personality conflict, we're not just withdrawing anymore. We have it reassigned, and then the attorney who gave up a case, they'll get one of the cases from the other attorney transferred to them. And so I know that was a problem before. The other one about a client refuses to follow an attorney's advice unless it involves a commission of future crime. So that's basically a personality conflict, and we usually have another attorney talk to him, and most of the time the reassurance helps. And then there's about 11 of them. You don't really need to go through all of them, but there were conflicts before where they lived in the neighborhood where the victim of burglary lived. That's clearly not a conflict that we would recognize anymore. So we're definitely working on trying to tighten up the conflicts, and and we also really want to look at other ways of helping out the private attorney panel. I know if there are new younger members, we've told some of them that, we have a brief bank that they can just email one of us and we'll provide any of our motions or, the procedure, right? So we're hoping to get that. And once we finalize our performance standards, we're gonna convert it into like a criminal defense book, like a guide to manual. And then that we hope will help, attract people into the private attorney panel, because that's basically the main reason they're not joining is they don't feel they have the competence to do it. But we in APD, we're always willing to assist any attorney who has questions on criminal matters, and so we're constantly sending people motions that we've used in the past. So I don't know if there's anything that the board needs to. I mean, if the board wants to approve these these scenarios and have that formally attached to our SOP, that would be great. John and I were just going to circulate it in a memo to the attorneys, and we'll send it to Annie and see if she'll sign off on it for her attorneys as well.
Yeah, that is sufficient for me.
Yeah.
Steve. I mean, my purpose, and if I may just go ahead, Cuba, and then I'll defer it to you. But my purpose in wanting to revisit our standard operating procedure regarding conflicts of interest is that, as you pointed out, it's been 8 years since this policy was adopted. I'm as chair of both the private attorney panel subcommittee and also board. I oversee the finances in reference to court-appointed cases. The public defender and the APD provides that's the first line in reference to representation for our indigent defendants. And so it's extremely important in the overall way of addressing legal representation for our indigent defendants that in the Public Defender Service Corporation and APD are able to do as much as ethically that they can in just meeting those requirements. I'm satisfied with the written policy. My only input when we had initially reviewed this is I just wanted to have another set of eyes take a look at a decision of the staff attorney in applying these written guidelines, just so that there can be a degree of certainty that the proper weighing of the respective interests and in carrying out those responsibilities and ethical living up to those ethical standards are considered, because you just at the drop of a hat you can't say there's a conflict just because there may be a potential adverse interest. There's waivers to consider, and there's other ways that provide exceptions in reference to these guidelines. But the way it's currently written, applied, I personally am satisfied, and it's not necessary to add on the various scenarios to the policies, and that can be handled administratively. So thank you for that. And so Attorney Ekubi, at this time I will recognize you.
Thank you, Your Honor, CJ, and thank you, Steve and PDSC for doing this. I too feel much more comfortable with what's been added. I would agree with CJ that I don't think that we need to add any scenarios, but I think there's about two things I would consider. And first part is, I know you indicated because this policy hasn't been revised in over 8 years, but I would like some language, though, if it's possible, also upon the concurrence of the board, that the policy may be modified from time to time based on any changes in the rules of professional responsibility. I sit on the investigative ethics or investigative committee, and even in my tenure there, I've seen some changes And so I just want to make sure that there is that flexibility that Steve and John, at some point, if there may be some modifications or changes to the rules of professional responsibility, it'd be incumbent upon the administration to, adopt any new changes that would have an impact on the ethical rules. The second thing I just had not a concern, but somehow or another, and that is on the proposed policy with the attachment. It says here on one of the lines that you referenced, Stephen, the automatic withdrawal without permission. I feel more comfortable if either one of two things, either that's removed or that there's a sign off next to it initialed by not only the attorney, but also the executive administration, saying that they would agree to that. Because my concern here, and I'm not saying that it would happen, but I think we just don't want attorneys unilaterally making that determination unless there's some kind of approval process by your administration. That would be the other thing. So really, those are the only two things. My next comment is that the two, I think, also other important members here, which is the president of the Guam Bar and, of course, our presiding judge. I think that before we can really make adopting this, I would feel comfortable too with their comments. If they agree to this or so, I think that it would really be a great benefit. If there's no comments, then that's fine. But I think that with the Bar Association president and with the presiding judge, in addition to Trustee Kanata, I would feel real comfortable that we get all the proposed comments now and then move forward to adopt it. But that would be my thought process, CJ and Edie Hattori. Otherwise, those are just the two comments that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Ekubi. And those are good comments. But how I'd like to proceed, Steve, is that if you could just have that proposed amendments reflected in a written form indicating how that is to be worded within the current policy for the next meeting, then we can review it, have the opportunity. You can also discuss it with your lawyers if needed in reference to any input that you'd like the board to consider before there is a decision whether or not to modify the existing policies in the way Attorney Ekubi is proposing. So we're not going to act on it now. I'd like, as Attorney Ekubi has mentioned, for the presiding judge and the president, Jackie Terlai, to be present, hopefully at the next meeting when we can have it in written form. Attorney Ekubi can speak to it in reference to her rationale, and we can have a proper deliberation. And also, of course, management, if there is any opposition, that the reason for it, so we can properly weigh the administration's input.
No,
Would that be satisfactory to you, Attorney Ekubi?
Sorry, CJ, I missed your question.
Would that be satisfactory in reference to?
Yes, absolutely. I think they did a really good job in putting this together. And I think that since this is such an important component for many of their attorneys and for oversight of the administration, as well as our board, CJ, to ensure that the rules of professional responsibility are carried out. And as the court already, Your Honor pointed out, the importance of staying on to cases when there really is, we take into consideration the waivers that, and really there's no direct conflict that would impact the ability of an attorney or one of the attorneys representing this organization. I think it's important that we get everybody's input, and then this body can then move forward with the final and hopefully in an adoption, so that this policy can move forward, as we've all discussed previously, the importance of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Steve?
Oh, no, that sounds like a great plan. And so we'll put it in like a resolution form attached to with the changes attached. And then because our eventual plan really is to have it approved by the board, sent to the private attorney panel members and the trial judges, to help guide them. Because, if these conflicts are making it through, I want to hear about it so that we can eliminate unnecessary conflicts. And so, I mean, I know John, either one of us would hear complaints, but we really haven't heard any. But I don't know if the panel members or even the trial judges, if they understand our SOP. So if we give it to them, they might take a closer look at some of our conflicts and say, maybe you don't need a conflict off of this one. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. And in terms of the conscientious way that management is addressing this issue. As you know, Steve, because you're on the private attorney panel, we've had these resignations from our private attorney panel listing. And so it appears that probably if we don't get other attorneys stepping up to sign up, that it's just going to go back to the old days, and the trial judges are just going to go down the list and just appoint from the bar listing. And, that's not something what I'd like to see, because we want lawyers, number one, who have an interest, number two, who are capable and competent in reference to trial practice, to be the attorneys that are considered and on the list for appointment. And, we have a process in which we qualify the attorneys in the private attorney panel. But if we just don't have any interest in applicants, then there's already a discussion that, we may just go back, to the old days and just have the judges go down the list of the Guam bar listing and just make appointments. And no one is accepted unless you come in, file a motion, and indicate a reason as an officer of the bar with a duty to and responsibility within the ethical roles, serve this segment of the community. It may very well come down to that, but you are assisting us in avoiding that to the extent that we have the public defender and APD continue to diligently apply and implement these rules.
yeah, we definitely don't want to. We want to do everything we can to avoid going back to that old system, because I mean, really, the private attorney panel is so efficient, and they're actually criminal defense experts. So the representation for the clients overall is so much better with the panel. But it's just hard getting people to sign up for it.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Is there anything else before I move on to the next item on our agenda? If there's none, so we'll go ahead and go to the report from our APD managing attorney, Attorney Anna Maria Gell. Annie?
Morning, good afternoon, Your Honor. We put this in, I didn't have it attached to the packet, but it's here for your review. We did get 28 cases the month of November. As far as withdrawals, we withdrew from, so far withdrawn from 63 cases, which brings our number up to 15%. And I know we want to get that down. So of course, the conflict review and check that we've attached, that public defender has attached, well, we always look for ways to avoid getting off cases, but sometimes we need to get off cases. The other announcement that I have is that we do have a loss coming. Bryson Brazil gave his notice. He's leaving this week. He's moving back to the States and will be a public defender in Oregon. So that's a big loss for APD. Bryson has been a really good trial attorney, and in the last 12 trials, I'd say he's won every single trial. So it's a big loss for APD, and as the bar knows, as well as the Chief Justice, it's hard to find lawyers on Guam. We're having a hard time finding lawyers, and so I'm expecting our other new lawyer to come in next year. So hopefully we'll have Brian Scanlon come in next in the January or February. He's just trying to close out his stuff in Chicago. But as far as anything else updated, we don't have anything else. for you at this time. If there's any questions, I can answer any questions, but I just wanted to say condolences to to Steve. Margaret was my classmate, so I know her very well. So anyway, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Annie. 2 points. Number one, I'd like for you to circulate to all the board members the report that you're showing on the share
Okay.
screen,
I will. Thank you, Your Honor. I will.
those present and not present for our information.
I'll be sure to do that right after the hearing, right after the board meeting. I'll email it.
All right. And the second thing is, so the vacancy with Bryson's
Mhm.
resignation, what type of outreach and advertising does the APD do in trying to fill this position?
Well, at this point in time, we didn't have to do much. So now we're going to have to, go online and reach out because we hadn't had to do that. So I need to talk to to Steve to see how he's been doing it for public defender, but it had normally been just we would announce, and then we'd have either a listing that people would email us and send their resumes, but I haven't seen any for a while. So we're going to have to do some more like serious outreach.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what we should do is we should advertise the position and, the pay scale and whatever the requirements are.
Right.
And we want to also circulate that throughout Micronesia. There are also public defenders in Micronesia. In my contacts with through the Pacific Judicial Council, there's always a lot of interest in reference to being part of the legal community here in Guam, and this may give those individuals who have an interest an opportunity. So rather than just do a very and we see that when there's private firms in our legal community that in filling positions now are very aggressively advertising. I see it. So,
Yeah, I've seen it as well. As the bar listserv has announced a lot. So those are good points, Your Honor. I'll take that. I'll work with Mr. Hattori and we can come up with something for both our offices regarding the at least Palau, Micronesia, all those Saipan, all the PJC partners.
all right, very good.
Thank you and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Any questions for Attorney Gell? All right, there being none, we'll move on to our Civil Law Center. And do we have Attorney Ron Haynes? I don't see him present. I do see Gwen Diego on the virtual screen. Was there anyone that was going to make any update regarding our Civil Law Center? Gwen?
Yes, Your Honor. This is Kat Seguenza, and
Okay, I'm sorry.
acting managing attorney in Ron's absence. He is expected back on the 29th. So it's
I
nice to
apologize for that, Kat. I was not made aware of that, so please go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's nice to see everyone again. And I'm pleased to let you know that the EJC is operating successfully. There's a great group of people here. They work hard, they're compassionate, and they're really earnest. So we continue to meet our numbers required under the grant. And I'll let Ron speak to the actual statistics at the next meeting, if that's okay. But what I wanted to let the board know is many of us were at, or some of us were at the PJC training in Palau recently. And we had the opportunity of listening to a very bright, young public defender from Washington, D.C., who explained to us their office's setup to give holistic services from their public defender's office. So we are on the cutting edge here of offering a holistic approach which says a lot for Guam. So, that's a good thing. Lastly, I want to let the board know that Trustee Terlahi has authorized me to report that she and I have talked about updating the Guam Bar Association's list of real estate attorneys and estate lawyers who would like to be on a list that we actually give to our clients rather than having them go through the process of contacting the Guam Bar Association, going through their administrative process, burdening their one employee. This we thought would be a great way to help our Manumco by providing a list, and it'll also help the Guam Bar Association. The biggest concern, at least in my practice, is a request for deeds of gift. And I've heard the board's trustees' concerns, and many of them I agree with, but this will at least hasten the process. Rather than sending them to another government agency, we'll be able to provide them with a list of attorneys. So I think that's a nice Band-Aid approach, at least for the time being, something nice to offer. Unless there are any questions, I have nothing further. And I don't know if Gwen had anything specific she wanted to report.
Thank you. I don't at this time. Thank you, Attorney Kat.
All right, thank you, Kat. And yes, Hannah McElhaney, the public defender I'm referring to out of the Washington, D.C. Public Defender Office, and both you and John and Brian were present for that ACTL training. I thought, was practically the highlight of that training. There was a lot of interaction, and she generated the most discussion, and the information she provided was very helpful and reassuring that we're also on the right track in terms of our Civil Law Center and of course our public defender and APD. How we manage our affairs. But she's a resource person. We know that she is a resource person. She will make herself available in the event that there is any interest to reach out to her just for her review and input. So if there are no questions for Attorney Seguenza, then we are going to move to the next, and I think that's pretty much it, right? We don't have anything, the attorney pay parity. All right, Steve, is there any, it's the end of the
So
year.
we basically ran out of time. It got introduced, it got referred, but obviously the term ends, so we'll probably have to start all over again and with the next legislature.
Correct. I think, to start it off with, I swear in the new senators on Monday, January 2nd at 10 a.m. I think we should transmit a letter to the speaker in reference to the request that the bill be reintroduced and the chair, whoever the chair is going to be of our legal section that we are requesting on the part of the Board of Trustees that the bill be reintroduced that provides for pay parity for our public defender lawyers. And I think we should get this on early, Steve. And so there is time to try and make some positive outcome in reference to that proposed bill.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep our foot to the gas on this one.
All right.
Thank you for your support, Chief.
All right. So if there's nothing else, then we'll just we've already covered the conflict of interest. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
All right. So anything under new business?
Mm.
If there's no other items, public discussion. I don't see our room out in the front lobby area, but I assume that there is no one out there who wishes to be seen or heard. And so before we adjourn, I just want to wish everyone, a belated Merry Christmas, but a very safe remaining part of our holidays, and look forward to a new year in which we continue to improve the indigent representation of our community. So I wish everyone well, and
Chief Justice, can I just ask a
Yeah.
question? So it looks like January 24th is the next board meeting.
correct.
So will that be the last one with this board, or?
Well, no, this board will continue on. I'm the one who rotates out, and
Oh, okay.
so unless their term expires or they're replaced, our board members will continue. QB, remind me, what was the term of your appointment when I reappointed you?
I will need to confirm, but I thought I was just tracking your time, Your Honor. So I will confirm with Kathy, but
All right.
I was under the impression that I was just tracking your time, Your Honor.
Okay, Kathy, and if that is what the statute says and there are no holdover appointments, then we need to raise it. I rotate out at 10 a.m. on January 17th. My successor will then take over, and so he or she will chair the meeting on Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. And you may want to raise to the attention of the incoming chair that there may need to be appointments. But I would think that there are the holdover provision may apply until that board member is replaced. But I will leave that up to Attorney Ekubi and Ms. Donna in reference to whatever the statute provides. And Kathy, and you could provide that input and assistance so that they know what steps to take.
Well, but if this is our, last board meeting where you'll be our chair, I mean, I just wanted to say a few words if that's possible.
Yes, and before you do that, and so I don't forget, I got not only a wonderful lunch, but a very delicious, I assume it's, I'm going to share with my wife and my family, the cake that was delivered, Kathy, and the members of the administrative staff. Thank you so much. That is very thoughtful. And I will have a small piece when we celebrate. But yes, this is my last meeting.
I know it's unfortunately all we could provide was a nice cake, but I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the staff here. I mean, you've done a great job as our Chief Justice. You've really moved our team forward, making sure the EJC gets on firmer ground and really helping our seniors. I mean, I think helping create the Elder Justice Center really is hopefully something that we'll be able to do for at least as long as I'm practicing. But anyways, it's such a great service, and the board's been tremendously supportive. I know that we've had discussions, and you guys have really held our feet to the fire, which we really helps us get better. And so thank you for everything you've done for our office, and especially for making sure that when we did do the 6% pay adjustment, it was across the board, to all our staff, not just the attorneys. So I mean, the entire team here at Public Defenders really appreciates the work you've done for our team, and also for the entire office. So thank you, and I hope you get to enjoy your remaining term as a Supreme Court Justice. No need to retire. You're still very young and energetic.
Well, thank you, Steve. I very much appreciate it, and it means so much to me. As you know, I take my job very seriously, and it's just been an honor for me to continue to chair, my very supportive and capable board members, as well as the administrative staff of the public defender. The work that the lawyers do in this office and APD and Elder Justice Center is just tremendously important to our community. And I'm wanting to always recognize and highlight that. And although the thought did cross my mind that it was almost time for me to retire, I still have 8 years remaining on my term as the justice on the Guam Supreme Court. And sit here today, I continue to plan that I will continue in that capacity. So, but thank you. Thank you for those words.
And Your Honor, if I may too, because since this is going to be our last meeting together as a trustee for the, public defender, I just also want to thank you. You were the one who spearheaded my appointment to serve here. And so it's always been good working with you, as I've worked with you almost 28 years ago as your associate. So it has been a pleasure working with you, always driven in terms of our mission. So I wanted to thank you too as well. It's, having spent the last 3 years with you on the board. So I wanted to echo the ED Hattori's comments, but it was certainly a great experience as always. And so I wanted to thank you and congratulate you on 3 successful years as Chief Justice with this board and chairman particularly of this board, Your Honor. Thank you, and happy holidays to you and the rest of the staff management of the public defender and APD, as well as our trustees, Ms. Kanata, President Jackie Terlahi, and PJ Lamarena. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Q.
Thank you, QB. The feeling is mutual. And as you can see, because I continuously continue to appoint you, I hold you in such high esteem in reference to your interests and your competence in caring and for the indigent in our community.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So with that, everybody, at this time, I am going to entertain a motion to adjourn so we can go have lunch, and I may get a head start and have a
Motion.
I'll
All right.
second.
Then move and second it. There being no objection, this meeting is adjourned. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and
Goodbye.
happy
everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.